This episode of The Horror Basement could be brought by you. If you'd like to advertise on the Horror Basement podcast for a small fee, get in contact with us at TennesseeHorrorNews@gmail.com.
Check out Nightmare Toys for all your horror collectible needs at nightmaretoys.com.
Hi, I'm Bill Mosley, and you're in the Horror Basement with Jim Jam and Johnny Leroy. Lick my plate, you dog dick.
Welcome to the Horror Basement, the Tennessee Horror News Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Johnny Leroy. And always, we got Jim Jam here with us.
Jim Jam here.
What's up, guys? So, with Jim Jam's vacation and all, we're going to do a throwback episode here. But we do have some news. Funko is making a cereal.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool.
Got some horror-themed cereal.
Yeah, and I was reading up on that, and it's like the Freddy Krueger cereal turns your milk red, like blood,
Wow.
and the Beetlejuice cereal turns it green, like slime. So that's pretty cool. You know, there's a little news there for you.
Yep. Hell yeah. And Christy from Nightmare's Toys said that she will be selling it too. So.
Oh, hell, really? Because
Yes.
it was like $7.99 a box, I think. It's going to stores. I was like, I wonder if it'd go like to Walmart, like stores like that, or if it'd be like at a like Walgreens or some shit, you know, like randomness they do.
Yeah, I sent the link that I sent you and to Christy, and she said that they're going to get it. So there you go, Nightmare Toys.
Well, we'll be there in a couple weeks, so
maybe she'll have it by then, and we can be like eat some cereal.
Yeah, it's supposed to be out in April, so
Maybe, hell yeah, maybe that'll work out perfect. We can try. We can try some a box of cereal.
The Elvira cereal was black.
Yeah.
Like, I think it was like black in color, or maybe it was, that was on the box, you know, but maybe it looked purple. I don't know.
Well,
So I'm just curious to see what that looks like, what it tastes like.
Yeah,
I wonder if they all had the same flavor.
That would suck. Surely
like
they
all,
thought
like,
about
cinnamon,
it more.
You know the old 80s cinnamon flavor?
Yeah.
In this fucking cereals that like a lot of them had.
Well, hopefully it ain't that case, and we get some good flavor cereal.
Yeah, it makes me curious now. Because what could you flavor? It'd probably be sugar, corn. Fucking that's what it all is anyway.
Yeah, it'll probably just be. I wonder if any of them have marshmallows in it.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't think they did. They said they even got like He-Man license and shit.
oh
And
shit.
they're all. I think it said also that each box will have a prize in it, so it'll be like the old school.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so maybe we'll get lucky and Christy will already have them when we go down there, and we can like there's a bunch of them, so I'm not like we're going to buy all the, different ones. But maybe we can get at least one a box of each, and for me and you, and we could wouldn't it be cool to do a taste test on the on the podcast?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've been trying to do gross taste tests with you for a while, but you won't do it.
No, I'm not doing that now. I don't want to throw up. I hadn't threw up in years, so I'm not going to do it now.
God, it's such a cool record.
But yeah. So this
anyways, guys,
throwback podcast is kind of going in with the theme of Death House, because this is the first interview with Harrison Smith. It was a year ago.
Was it a year ago?
That's what it says on YouTube. It says it was a year ago. So
Huh.
I don't know if that's accurate. I'd have to look at the actual date, but yeah.
Well, and make sure you check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Foramino, Vero, if you got that. I don't know how many people was using that.
Yep, and then we got SoundCloud, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Google Play, Blueberry. I think Podbean we're on there too.
Yeah, Podbean, and then Scurryface Radio.
And we're actually working on getting on Scream Radio. Tracy from there is doing
looking into it.
Yeah, looking into it. So hopefully we'll be on Scream Radio too, which is featured on Horrormino.
Yeah, so
hopefully big things coming soon. We got some kind of smelly situation coming up hopefully soon. So
yeah, got stuff in the works, guys.
Yep.
Stuff in the works.
I appreciate it, and we'll be back officially next week, and yeah. So, away we go.
Today we have with us Harrison Smith, writer, director of Death House. Thank you for being here, Harrison. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Johnny, and gentlemen, thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for being a part of this.
All right, so Death House, the Expendables of horror, is that? That's what everybody's calling it. Is that what you yourself would particularly call it, or is that something that somebody else come up with?
Yeah, no, I would not call it that. That was dubbed by the media long before I came to the project. The project was brought to me by Entertainment Factory's Rick Finkelstein and Stephen Chase, and they brought the project to me. It was originally written by Gunnar Hansen. Gunnar had written a script that he was having some issues with in getting a lot of people attached to it. He admitted himself that he had issues with dialogue, things like that, and it needed a cleanup. So basically what we had to do was, sit down and go through it. And before I get to that part, it was, he was saying he wanted a lot of the horror people, a lot of the horror community in it, a lot of the icons. And so somebody along the line in the media quickly dubbed it the Expendables of horror, but that's not what it is. I mean, it's funny, people will go, oh, does that mean then, like, Freddy will be fighting Jason or Michael Myers will be fighting Pinhead? No. I mean, in the Expendables was Dolph Lundgren, Drago from Rocky IV, was, Sylvester Stallone, Cobra. I mean, no. Why would people expect that? They were all different characters. They were just all action stars all put together. So why do the horror people have to put their makeup on and become iconic characters again? And most of all, we could never afford that. The licensing alone would bankrupt them. So, no, I don't think it's the Expendables of horror at all. I think it's more, like I've said, it's more along the lines of it's a mad, 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 mad world where you just have a lot of horror cameos, but you also have, these great icons and some really new characters. And it's a fresh story. It's a damn good story. And we got Gunnar's blessing on that story before he died.
I'm glad to get that cleared up because, we've even called it that. And, now that we know this, we won't do that. People were commenting, asking about if Jason was in it and Leatherface and all this. And I'm like, no, nothing like that.
Technically, Jason is in it. Yeah. I mean, it's Kane Hodder. Who played Jason, but it is not Jason Voorhees. And see, gentlemen, that's my whole point of this. I think horror has gotten into such a bad state of affairs that we have dumbed down the audience so much that this is what they expect. And most of all, they think that this is high concept. Look, mashing up these monsters is really no different than Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein. And although there's nothing wrong with that movie, and it's a classic, and it's a lot of people's favorites, the issue is there's no need to be doing that. I personally just wrote a piece for my cinema articles that I publish on why it was a bad idea to mash up, Freddy versus Jason, because of the fact that the two worlds don't go together. Okay, they're two separate worlds. Jason is grounded in reality, I think, for the most part. I mean, it's odd. Again, Jason supposedly drowned when he was a very deformed and frail child, and suddenly is able to return from the dead in the second picture as a gigantic hulking beast who really worked out, I guess, while living at the bottom of Camp Crystal Lake. But we shouldn't be expecting stupidity, and I'm going to say it. Those monster type mashups, they're for the dumb. That's dumb. There's no need to do it. We don't need Pinhead fighting Michael Myers. It takes away from the mythos and everything that was great. And look, even we call Abbott and Costello meets Frankenstein a classic now, but even in its day, I mean, Lou Costello himself rejected the script, and he was surprised at the film's popularity. I mean, he even said himself, this is disrespectful to Bela Lugosi and all these guys that, at one time were the icons of horror. Like, they were at the top of the heap, and now they're being played for laughs. And so, no, I had no interest. I made it very clear to Rick and Steve and Michael Eisenstadt and the group, and even to Gunnar. I made it very clear I have no interest whatsoever in any type of monster mashup or any type of gimmick movie such as the Expendables of horror. And I know that may sound snobbish, but I up its game, and I also think that audience need to change up their game too and expect more from their entertainment. And that's why we're plagued with the rash number of sequels and reboots and remakes and reimaginations and whatever you want to call it. Do we need a Poltergeist remake? I mean, really? Did we? And what's wrong with the first one? And I love when somebody will say, "Oh, well, that movie's dated." Well, of course they are, jackass. They're all the movie's age. Star Wars is dated. They talk about tapes. They talk about the missing data tapes. Well, that was before Windows and Bill Gates and Microsoft Digital Revolution. I mean, do we go back now? And, well, I guess George Lucas tried to go back and fix everything because, it's like saying that the Mona Lisa is dated. Do we need to go back and repaint the Mona Lisa? Do we really?
Yeah, I agree 100% because a lot of the movies that they're remaking, it's just not the same. Like, you watch the older movie because of what it is, and then they ruin it, and it's just like money. That's it. They just want money. And like you were saying, putting Monster Mash up, putting people together, it's just money.
It's an easy cash grab.
Exactly.
What it is. Exactly. And, look, I mean, the only thing that I'll say is Corey Feldman still to this day I think is a brilliant freaking idea. And that is, if you're going to do something, do a spin-off to Friday the 13th. And I think his idea of Tommy Jarvis versus Jason Voorhees is platinum. I think you can make a TV series out of that where, because Corey, if you arguably out of the Friday the 13th franchise, aside from Pamela Voorhees and aside from Jason Voorhees, Tommy Jarvis is the only memorable human character in the whole film, other than Crazy Ralph, I guess, if you want to say that. But, I mean, ask anybody to remember any of the names of any of those teen victims throughout the entire franchise. It always comes back to Corey Feldman. Now, other actors have played Tommy Jarvis, but it's Corey that everybody responds to. And I know that there's some underground, graphic novel that portrays this type of situation. And why New Line Cinema has not jumped on this and tried to turn this into a cash cow is beyond me, because I think the idea is gold.
It would be perfect.
And back to Death House, like you said, not wanting it to be just a bunch of different horror film characters because the actors were in them. I even had a guy, I overheard him talking about it, just so happened to hear him talk about Death House. He's like, "Oh, I was hoping," like Jim Jam was saying, "I was hoping that they bring their characters into it and they would fight," but they don't make any sense. So I'm really glad that you're trying to do something original, and make it a.
Right.
Would you consider it a slasher film or like a psychological?
No, Death House. Look, we have plenty of blood and gore in Death House. I'm going to tell you that right now, and we have a practical effects scene that I'm going to say it right here on record rivals the chest burster scene in the original Alien. That's how good this effect is. So we have plenty of blood. We have plenty of blood and gore, and we have plenty of action, and we have plenty of violence. But we also have a goddamn good story on top of it too that mixes in some science fiction, that mixes in some really good solid drama, and most of all, we're expecting our fans to know more about horror. Horror is more than Friday the 13th or the latest reboot of Halloween. And for fans to go, "Well, I've seen every Friday the 13th. Big freaking deal. So what? That doesn't make you a horror fan. It makes you a follower, but it doesn't make you a fan. You should know your horror. You should know your horror all the way back to the silent era. If there's anybody listening to this podcast that doesn't know who Count Orlok is or can't tell you who Bela Lugosi was, they're not a horror fan. They're not. And that's how it works. You need to know the history of the genre, why things happen. It's kind of like, the remake of Fright Night. Yes, I know Anton Yelchin died. I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is the remake made no sense because it wasn't needed. The remake had nothing to say. I'm not saying it was a bad film. I'm not saying that it was terribly made. What I'm saying is the original 1985 Fright Night was kind of like mourning an era of Hollywood that was disappearing. The old vampire film and all the tropes that went with it. Kids watch it now and they go, "Well, I don't get it. That's stupid." They don't even understand the play on words of Peter Vincent. They don't get it. And in the remake of Fright Night, Peter Vincent is some David Blaine, Siegfried and Roy guy. What did that have to do with anything? In the original, he's an old, broken down horror host. That's what he is. And he, was losing nothing to say. It's well made. It's got some great effects. Colin Farrell did a nice job. Delchick did a nice job. It just has nothing to say.
That's very understandable. I mean, it had nothing to add to the story, so yeah, I get exactly what you're saying.
Right, it had nothing to bring.
So Death House, like, getting all of those actors together, you know, like you said, the horror icons together, what was that like? How was that directing them?
It was great. It was really great. These were some of the nicest people, and I know, look, you know, in these interviews, you're always supposed to just say nice things. I mean it. I'm being absolutely genuine. Talk about some of the most generous, nicest people you could work with. Bill Moseley, Kane Hodder, Debbie Rochon, I mean, Barbara Crampton, all these people, Dee Wallace. I mean, I'm not trying to deliberately leave anyone out. They were the nicest people, and they were there for all the right reasons. And everybody kept saying all the time, "This is for you, Gunnar. You know, this is for you." You know, they were mourning one of theirs that they lost. And the genre, you know, let's face it, when these people go to conventions, you know, people come up to them, and one of the things, they more than just saying, "Oh, I'm a fan," they always tell them, "Oh, I was 13, Friday the 13th. Oh, I was 12 years old when I remember right where I was when I saw, you know, this for the first time." And that's important. And that's why these people endure. And I think that's important. So working with these people and gathering them all together, I think it was not just a humbling experience, but it was something pretty special. I got to watch Bill Moseley, Michael Berryman, and Kane Hodder do the Three Stooges. Hello, 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 hello. They all did it. And I turned to my first assistant director and I said, "We're seeing something pretty damn cool here." And he said, "Yeah, I know it."
That would be awesome. We got the chance to meet Michael Berryman and Sid Haig at the Nashville Tattoo and Horror Festival here, local. And Michael Berryman, he is a really nice guy. Really nice.
He's a gentleman. And And he's got a great sense of humor. And most of all, he's just so damn smart. You know, like, he knows so much about so much. And I could just sit and listen to Michael talk for hours. And you know, the same thing with Sid Haig. Like, I got to work with Sid Haig for a day, and, you know, I just, between takes, I just wanted to listen to him. You know what I mean? I just wanted to hear what he had to say.
Oh,
you know, he's such a smart man, and he's seen so much.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
For sure. That's what when we were talking to Michael, it's just like sit back and listen. Like, it just hear what he has to say, and just it's just it was really amazing just to hear everything that he, like you said, he knows so much, and it's just awesome to be, you know, to get to meet these people and be around them. And yet you got to be around all of them, you know, for one film, which, you know, is freaking badass, actually.
I want to say you're very lucky for that, you know. Well, I think you're lucky.
And I know I'm very lucky, gentlemen. Not everybody gets to go to work every day and work with the people that you grew up watching in the movies, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody gets to do that. Those people go to their jobs, they sit at their cubicles, they do their data entry, they do what they do, and they live for the weekend, and they're 2 to 4 weeks off for vacation, and that's what they do. With me, like, I get to do all these things, and I get to make nightmares and scary stuff, and I eventually want to do comedy and some fun stuff, but I know that this could disappear at any time, but this is what I wanted to do since I was 10 years old. So how many people, I mean, when you read your yearbook, go back to your high school yearbooks, how many of those people that said, "Oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that," actually went ahead and did it?
No, not many. I know I wanted to do a lot of things, but
right.
Wasn't even expected to be doing this, so, you know, and which this is something I do love to do.
Well, and life has an interesting way. Life has an interesting way of taking us down certain roads. You know, I mean, it took me a while to get where I wanted to be, from being 10 years old and making movies to, you know, the age I'm at now to making them. You know, it was quite a road to get there, and a lot of sacrifices made as well, because in the end, as we know, it really does come down to sacrifice. Are you willing to give up certain things to go for your dream?
That's true. Totally true.
Yes.
With what we're doing, we sacrifice a lot. So it's definitely true. And so what was the film that got you wanting to direct, though? Like, you're 10 years old, and you're like, I want to make films.
Well, I can tell you I was 8 years old, and it was Jaws. It was the original Jaws. My mother took me to see it in 1975 in the theaters. And I know I've had people go, mother took you to see Jaws when you were only 8?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, because Jaws was X-rated for anybody over 30.
Wow.
You know?
What?
So when I left that theater, I knew. I said to my mom, and it's not a made-up story. I mean, I said to my mom, I want to make movies. That's what I want to do, because I saw that audience, you know, reacting and screaming and yelling and, you know, doing all the right things, you know? And I thought, wow, one movie made people do that. That's amazing. And that's what I wanted to do.
That's what I'm hoping out of Death House. Like, you know, you get that, like, you know, you get that intense fear and that, you know, build up and just to feel that fright and just that emotional feeling when you get into it.
With Death House, you're going to get a lot of stuff. I mean, you're going to get, like I said, you're going to get your blood and gore. You're going to get your nudity. You're going to get all those things. They're all there and in lots and lots of heaps. Okay? So it's not like you have to, I mean, in the first 5 minutes of the film, we have, you know, Tony Todd does something that, as far as I know, was never done in horror before. And so we keep things moving, but at the same time, you find yourself going into what Gunnar really wanted, and that is, you know, questioning what is true good, what is true evil, you know, and how have these concepts been distorted, and most of all, what is technology's role in all of this now? You know, can we eradicate evil? Can evil be deprogrammed? So we kind of go back a little bit to, you know, A Clockwork Orange. You know, we kind of go back to that. So there's some definite science fiction in this. There's action, there's suspense, there's outright horror. You know, and that's what we want. I mean, the first half of the film is all the setup, and it's very much like Jurassic Park. And when you guys were saying about the Expendables of horror, this is basically Jurassic Park without the dinosaurs. Is what it is. The ride breaks down and the monsters get out. Except in this case, it's the people who are monsters.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, we're definitely looking forward to it. Like I said, we hear people talking about it. So,
are y'all in post-production right now?
Yes, the film, the trailer has just gone now to the visual effects artist and also over to the sound designer and the composer. And then the feature film itself is edited together. It is put together. We're about to do a picture lock on it. My editor, as a matter of fact, is going through it right now this week, making all final adjustments, making sure cuts match up, continuity is proper, you know, all those things as well too. So we're you know, in other words, the film is edited in together, and our producer Rick Finkelstein has watched it, and he is nuts about it. And he's watched it without all the effects. There are no effects in this, no color correction, no sound effects, no music, nothing. And he said, he goes, we have ourselves a winner.
That's awesome.
I know it's big too, because we was able to get, I guess someone sent us, from y'all sent us the teaser trailer, and we put it on our YouTube channel. It already had, I looked before we talked to you, it's already got 555 views. And I'm sure, you know, there's other places that's got it too. So, yeah, everybody is definitely excited about this movie.
And let me tell you some, gentlemen, to your audience, we deliver. I mean, when we say Kane Hodder is in it, Kane Hodder isn't in it for 30 seconds. Kane is like one of the major stars of this movie. And it is just, his performance is fantastic. I mean, you're going to have to look for Easter eggs that we have planted all over the place in this movie. And most of all, it's still not a gimmick motion picture. That's the best part. It's not a gimmick. You know, this is a solid, fresh new story that's going to hopefully spin off into 5 sequels. And most of all, it's written well, it's acted well, and we're not insulting our horror audience. That's the important part. We're not insulting people's intelligence. That's why my message to all the horror audience out there is step up your game. Stop asking for, oh, we need better horror, and then going out and watching the latest reboot of Halloween. No, you step up your game. Go out and learn more than Friday the 13th. Go out and learn more than Halloween. Go out and learn more than just the usual stuff. Understand why, you know, for example, understand why Fright Night is what it is. You know, understand why, you know, for example, I had somebody watching the original 1985 Fright Night and said, I don't understand, why does the girl's hair get long when she becomes a vampire? I don't get it. Well, because you never watched a freaking Hammer movie your entire life. That's why. Because if you watched Hammer movies, you you understood that most of the vampire films with Christopher Lee took place during the sexually repressed 1800s, when women were sexually repressed and they lived in this Victorian atmosphere where they were, their clothing was tight, they didn't show their breasts, and then as soon as the vampire gets them, he unleashes, loosens up their sexual inhibitions, and boom, that suddenly, yes, the hair is suddenly sultry and long. Yes, it's a trope, but it worked. And that was what Tom Holland was so lovingly pointing out in his film. And you show it to a modern audience now that only knows, torture porn, the human centipede, whatever, and they go, I don't get it. And that's the real big thing, gentlemen. There's an element of fun that's missing from horror. Horror can be fun without it being satire and stupid. You can have fun with horror. And that's why I love even Fright Night's tagline. If you love being scared, then this will be the night of your life. And that's what we want to do with this. I'd love to see Death House playing on college campuses at midnight, with a bunch of college kids hooting and hollering and screaming back at the screen, and especially when that one practical effect comes up, and it comes backed up with another one. Within 30 seconds, you have another, whoa, get the hell out special effect, I want to hear people cheering and throwing popcorn in the air and going, holy shit, was that fun? That's what I want.
I think that's what everybody strives to want, though. Yeah. I mean, because that's what I want out of horror. Like you said, I couldn't get into all the ridiculous horror movies, just over the top, just constantly. I mean, you can figure out how to kill people in many different ways. Like the human centipede too, like you were saying. I couldn't get into any of that.
We did that with Camp Dread. I wanted Camp Dread to be fun. And the killing that we have at the end has never been put on film before. And we wanted to throw a send-up to the summer camp movie without it being a satire. And we did that. Camp Dread is smart. And it's a lot of fun. There's a little bit of a mystery to figure out here. Is Eric Roberts the bad guy? Is Daniel Harris involved in this? Or who's doing the killing? We don't know. And then those last 30 seconds, which is also a nice tip of the hat to Psycho 2, I think we have our answer. And it's also a great social commentary. But, you get some people going, there weren't enough boobs, there wasn't enough blood. You know what? You're not a horror fan.
Yeah.
You think you are, but you're not. So I don't care if you liked it or not.
That's fun. Not enough boobs. That don't make a horror film. But I guess for some people now that does. And, you got to have the nudity. You got to have this or that to people. Because like you said, it's always been the same thing over and over and over. And nothing's new coming out.
Right. Well, and that's why Eli Roth said it. He said, horror fans complain they want something new. And then you go and give them something new and they go, well, it's not like The Evil Dead. And I thought Roth's reply was perfect. And he said, yeah, because it's The Evil Dead. Yeah, nothing will ever be like The Evil Dead because it's The Evil Dead. So when you get these people constantly going back and forth, we want something new. Then you give them something new. Oh, well, I'll give you an example. Our one editor on Death House, he asked me a question, and I wrote about this, and I'm not giving away any spoiler whatsoever. Kane Hodder's character, Sieg, in the film has the power to regenerate, which is a tip of the hat, of course, to Jason Voorhees. So he has the power, you shoot him, his bullet wound will heal up, that kind of thing. And he says to me, as they're editing the film, and we got through the first cut, and he said, you don't really explain how Kane Hodder can just regenerate the way that he does. And I said, well, we do. We talk about, I can't give away certain things here, but the answer is yes, we do actually give you some pretty strong clues as to how he is able to do this supernatural ability. Anyway, I said to this guy, now, how old are you? He goes, well, I'm 26. And I said, okay, have you seen any of the Friday the 13th movies? He goes, well, I've seen them all. And I said, well, what do you think? He goes, well, I think they're all awesome. I own every single one of them. They all sit on my shelf. And I said, did you ever stop and ask once how Jason Voorhees keeps coming back from the dead? I mean, didn't Corey Feldman chop his goddamn head off in part 4? And how did his head get back on his shoulders in part 6? And, because lightning struck him? So that somehow attaches his head? And he goes, well, and I said, no. Did you ever ask how you can shoot him? And didn't the FBI blow him up and Jason goes to hell? And he still keeps coming back. And I said, so let me get this straight. When Kane Hodder wears the mask, there are no questions. But when Kane Hodder is out of the mask, you you have questions.
That makes
and he said, I never really thought of it that way. And I said, now you have something new to think about.
Yeah, because, I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, with all the Jason, it's a movie. You don't need to ask why he come back to life. It's a movie. He come back to life because he's back to life.
Gentlemen, you go to Star Wars, spaceships don't explode in space. They don't make sounds. Okay?
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
And, you know, we can go further. Air tanks don't explode in sharks' mouths. And it was a long shot at best for Brody, getting close to hitting that shark, even in the freaking nose with that gun, at the distance that thing was, submerged underwater, and closing in on him at least 20 miles an hour. So, but we sit there and we go, Spielberg said it best. Look, if I had these people for the last 2 hours, they'll buy anything. And that's what we're doing. You know? We don't have to, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. If you go to my cinema article, I have a piece called Spoon Said Horror. Do we have to explain why Michael Myers doesn't die? I mean, do we really have to explain that? I mean, okay, yes, he's evil. I think that's enough, right? Dr. Loomis said he's evil. Okay, I'm willing to accept that. There's my answer. I mean, do we have to now do like a stupid Phantom Menace midichlorian thing and explain his genetic disposition and show how his cells heal up or some supernatural power gave him the ability to regenerate his cells? I mean, because we came close to that with Rob Zombie's remake because, you know, he's evil and can regenerate because his parents were shitty to him, right? I mean, do we even need a backstory to Michael Myers? Why do we need that? How about he was just bad? You know, it's like a tornado that will hit your house but not your neighbor's. Sometimes bad things happen randomly to people and there is no explanation. We search for one, but it doesn't mean that there is one. And that's where I think the genre has fallen apart because now we have to explain everything to the audience. Everything must be explained. How about you just sit back and enjoy the damn movie, you know?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, now we have a new Friday the 13th with an origin story. Do we need an origin story? Do we need to know how Pamela Voorhees met Silas Voorhees and was there some type of supernatural, you know? I don't know. And here's the bottom line. I don't freaking care. The fun of Friday the 13th for me as a kid was going to the movies. I was 14 years old, and I got to see boobs and some girls in some hot underwear, and I got to see a monster kill people, and I got my popcorn's worth. That's what it was about. I didn't care where Jason came from. And in part 2, I didn't even think, well, wait a minute, he drowned. How could he be back to all right, they say he's back to life? That's it. He's back to life. Okay, I'm in.
I felt the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, I was younger when it come out, but just being at a friend's house and being able to watch it on TV, you know, after it come on and, you know, years later and just like, boobs.
Yeah.
You know, and seeing the slasher because a friend of mine, you know, at 13, 14 years old, you know, you're just like, hell yeah.
That's what the movies were famous for. What's wrong with them? People go, oh my God, you just wanted to see boobs? Hell yes, I wanted to see boobs. So the red-blooded, heterosexual boy, and I wanted to see boobies. Absolutely.
Boobies.
That's
yes.
so true.
But that,
right?
I think I saw the remake of Friday the 13th theater. As soon as it come on, boom, there's a sex scene. I think the first scene in the movie was a sex scene.
Yep.
I was like, well, they're giving people right at the get-go. Just
what they want.
As a little kid runs by me, I'm like, wow, who brought that kid?
Right. And you know, you got to also understand certain movies were made, like, you know, I know a lot of people ruminated on the fact that, you know, the remake of Friday the 13th didn't do as well as they hoped. Well, you're taking that entire type of movie out of its historical context. The original Friday the 13th came right at a time when America politically was moving from very liberal to very conservative with the Reagan administration, and the 50s were back, and people were nostalgic for the 50s. You had Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley, and everybody wanted to go back. You know, Grease. It was all back to a simpler time. So you have this really weird kind of morality of, you know, have sex and die. Premature sex and die. Sex without marriage, you die. And so we accepted the deaths of these kids because, well, they're bad kids, right? They're fucking around in the camp, and that's the price you pay.
Getting drunk in the woods.
And even Mrs. Voorhees says that. Her son wouldn't have drowned if the counselors weren't having sex. So there was this really weird kind of conservative and yet liberal kind of idea in Hollywood, and the film worked in that context in the 80s. But you notice the series started to wane by the end of the 80s because, again, things were shifting. We were moving into a different direction. And then the Iraq War came along. The first Gulf War came along, and things were changing. And suddenly Jason Voorhees just wasn't so scary anymore. And that's because, things changed. Just as Frankenstein wore out his appeal, or the Frankenstein monster, or the werewolf, they wore out, Jaws right now, I don't know, are sharks scary anymore? I mean, we just had an alligator eat somebody at Disney World. I mean, what's scary anymore now? I mean, great white sharks, now more people are worried about protecting them, which is great, because Jaws did a lot of damage to them environmentally. And now with, being an educated audience, we understand the great whites really aren't man-eaters. They eat people accidentally most of the time because they think the surfers are seals. So we really have kind of defanged our villain with that. I don't really think we need another shark movie. Will The Shallows do well? I don't know. The preview looks pretty good. And, hey, you got my money. I'll see Blake Lively in a bikini any day. So, fine. But is it going to be the definitive shark movie? I think Spielberg already made it at a very different time, because Jaws wasn't a horror movie. Jaws is an economic movie.
Felt the same way that trying to bring out another shark movie, but you already have the shark movie and it's just rough to bring this. It's just like, I don't know.
I'm sure The Shallows is good. I'm sure that it's made well. I'm not bashing it. At all. But what I'm saying is, Jaws was good because it came right out of the Watergate era. Nixon had just resigned, okay? And people didn't trust their government. And really, who's the villain in Jaws? It isn't the shark. The villain in Jaws is the mayor and the government, the local government, who won't shut the beaches down. They're doing a cover-up, just like Watergate. Mayor Vaughn is really Richard Nixon, right? That's what he is. He might as well have did the V for Victory flash when the tiger shark is hung up on the dock. It might as well have been that, I am not a crook. Like, that was, Mayor Vaughn was Richard Nixon, and people identified. They're going for Brody, the everyman guy, the guy that's going to fight the system, and he did. But the real villain in the movie is Mayor Larry Vaughn, not the shark. The shark's doing what sharks do. They eat. You don't want to get eaten, don't go in the water.
So true.
Yeah, very true. Is there anything you want to add, or?
Go see Death House.
Yeah.
What I want to add is I'm very grateful to our investors. I'm very grateful to Rick and Steve of Entertainment Factory for keeping the dream alive. And most of all, I will end it with this. Gunnar does make a cameo. Death House is Gunnar's true last film appearance. And we're very proud of that. And I think Gunnar would be very, very proud of what we did. Like I said, I spoke with him not long before his death, and he said, Harrison, do whatever you have to get your script made. I'm happy with what you did. You have my blessing. And he said, if you have to get publicity, shoot a commercial on my grave. That's what he said.
Wow. Can you give
the kind of guy he was. He was a gentleman.
Can you give it an expected release date, or is that?
I can't, because it's going to depend on the distributor. I can always project, and then the distributor is going to say, well, we're really going to release it this way, or we're going to release it this day. That's what they'll do.
All right, well, we're just trying to get some extra stuff.
What about the trailer? Do you have a release date on the trailer?
We're expecting a release date. Yeah, we're talking about a release date on the trailer sometime after July 4th weekend.
All right, cool. Awesome. Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. The teaser trailer looked good, so yeah, definitely looking forward to the trailer. I think a lot of other people are looking forward to it too. Harrison, we appreciate you being here and talking to us, and it's a great conversation, and your knowledge is beyond.
Yes, you definitely schooled us on some
thank
things.
you. I mean, hopefully it's a message then to your viewers that I know my shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not just talking the talk. Look, I know my horror. I've watched it since I was a boy, and I've watched it all. I've watched all kinds. Whether it's zombie movies, vampire movies, monster movies, Godzilla. I mean, that's what you should know. You should know as much about everything as you possibly can. And horror is more than Friday the 13th and Michael Myers. That's how I feel.
That's definitely true, though. It's a lot more to it than that. We really appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're definitely busy right now. But,
Yep, we definitely are, but I really appreciate it. And most of all, I appreciate the support from your podcast and your listeners.
Thank you, sir. And you have a good day.
You too, gentlemen. Take care.
all right, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was Harrison Smith, writer director of Death House. Man, what an amazing dude! Like, just to be able to talk to him and get all of his knowledge. I guess that's all we got for today.
Yep, that's all we got from Jim Jam here. We out.
Peace. Like, share, and subscribe, guys.